The worst ranked UFC fighters right now, currently August 2025. You know, the UFC is supposed to be the pinnacle of the sport. It's supposed to be where we have the best fighters fighting the best fighters and the top of the food chain. But the guys in this video will really have you scratching your head saying, the best fighters in the world today are in the UFC. How are these guys ranked? And in this video, I'm going to go through, I believe, 12 fighters and kind of roast them for them being in the rankings. This is not a personal attack. This has nothing to do with their character. I'm strictly talking about their fighting skills and where they are at their career. And I just don't think these guys should be in the current UFC rankings. And it kind of makes you scratch your head, as I said. So let's get on to the first fighter, starting off with Tai Tuivasa. That's right. Tuivasa, who recently told the UFC that he's almost 800 pounds at this point out of camp. I mean, this guy is eating everything he sees. He's with DC at the Popeyes buffet. That's clear. This guy's on a 5-fight losing streak, and he's still a top 10 heavyweight in the UFC. That just goes to show you how dog crap the heavyweight division is currently in the UFC. Whenever you have a guy on a 5-fight losing streak, hasn't won a fight in 3.5 years, hasn't got to do a shoey since the beginning of Biden's presidency, and this guy is still a top 10 heavyweight, and he's been out for a while. And let's just call it what it is, man. He's fat and he's out of shape, and he trains at Planet Fitness. Bro, you're a professional fighter, and you're training at Planet Fitness with soccer moms. What are you doing, brother? Get out of Planet Fitness and get your ass to an actual training camp that can train you. This guy is just training. How is he even training at Planet Fitness? He's on the treadmill, but brother, the treadmill's not doing you any good because this guy's belly flops around like a bag of milk when he's in the cage. So I don't understand what he's really training. But Tai Tuivasa, he's looking rough these days. He's looking like he's getting further and further away from a fight again and more towards the barbecue, if you know what I'm saying. But either way, the fact that this guy's a top 10 heavyweight in 2025 is a bit of a head scratcher. 5-fight losing streak. And he's still not even top 15. He's top 10, guys. That is insane. Maybe he's number 11 now. Either way, he's close to the top 10, which is crazy. So, yeah, Tai Tuivasa should 100% be out of the rankings. How are they cutting Martin Buday, who's 7-1 in the UFC, but they're keeping Tai Tuivasa? It has to be off of name value because Tai Tuivasa is just not a good fighter. Jamal Hill. This might come as a shocker to you. Jamal Hill is a former champion, right? He beat Glover in 2023 to become the light heavyweight champion. He kind of struck while the iron was hot. That was perfect timing for Jamal Hill. He got Glover off a war with Yuri, who was battered and beaten up, and he dominated that fight, and he won the belt. However, Jamal Hill is so bad that I would not be surprised if he gets beaten by everybody in the rankings at this point. The only fighter maybe that he can beat in the rankings, 2 of them, Krylov, because maybe his chin is shot, and then maybe Alonzo Minifield. I think he loses to all the other ranked fighters. I'm sorry, man. Jamal Hill has the worst footwork I've ever seen in my entire life. It looks like the bottom of his feet have super glue on him whenever he's in the octagon. He cannot take his feet off the floor. And who is this guy beat? Jamal Hill, outside of Glover, like Johnny Walker, okay, garbage win. Thiago Santos, who's like 1-7 in his last 8 and retired now, garbage win. He hasn't won a fight in 2.5 years, and he has no grappling. So if you want to take Jamal Hill to the ground and have a field day, you can do that. But he's lucky he's in a division full of strikers. But yeah, man, Jamal Hill is an absolute joke of being in the rankings. And I know that sounds crazy to say. This is a hot take. People are going to call me delusional, but if you look at the skill set of Jamal Hill, his last fight versus Khalil, and just his performances recently, it's clear to me that Jamal Hill, it's because of the Achilles tendon injury he got. He ruptured his Achilles, and he just hasn't been the same guy. And I don't know if he can beat anybody in the rankings at this point outside of Alonzo Minifield. So, yes, I think Jamal Hill is one of the worst ranked fighters in the entire UFC. Hot take. Maybe so, but that's what I'm saying. Marvin Vettori, who recently lost to Brendan Allen, and we got to really question how Marvin Vettori ever got a title shot. I mean, genuinely, listen, what happened to Marvin and his brothers, absolutely tragic. As I said, this is not a personal attack on these fighters. They would all kick my ass. I'm just making a simple point of these guys' skill sets should not allow them to be in the UFC rankings. The UFC rankings are supposed to be indicative of the best fighters in the world. And Marvin Vettori is 2-4 in his last 6. And I pose a question about Marvin Vettori to you guys. Answer this for me. What is Marvin Vettori good at? Is there anything he's good at? I don't think so. He has a great chin, so maybe he's good at having a good chin. But outside of that, Marvin Vettori has mid-grappling, he has mid-striking, he has mid-wrestling, he has mid-BJJ, mid-kickboxing. There's not a single thing I look at Marvin Vettori and say, wow, this guy is actually great in this area. He has no ability to adjust in fights, and he has low fight IQ. Like Marvin Vettori, he's one of those guys that like he has a game plan for a fight, and he does that game plan until the end of the fight. He's not going to adjust. He's not going to make little tweaks in this game in between rounds. You're going to get the same Marvin Vettori in round 1 as you are in round 5, or however you say that. You get it. Marvin Vettori doesn't adjust. He doesn't do anything great. And it's like, man, how did this guy ever make it to the top 5 in middleweight? He just goes to show you how shallow the division is at one point in time. And I feel bad for Marvin Vettori because part of me wanted this guy to become champion. The first Italian champion, we know how bad he wanted it, but man, let's just call it what it is. Marvin Vettori is the perfect example of when hard work meets zero skills. This guy has all the hard work in the world, but he just has no natural talent and no skills. And yeah, man, I don't think he should be in the rankings. He's about to fall out the rankings. One more loss, and he probably going to find himself outside the top 15 for the first time in ages. So yeah, Marvin Vettori definitely should not be a ranked fighter in the UFC with his skill set. Daniel Rodriguez, you remember how Moicano said Dan Hooker being in the rankings I'm not sure who Moicano said this about. I think it's Dan Hooker. He's like, seeing Dan Hooker in the top 5 is like seeing a turtle in a tree. It doesn't make sense. That's how I feel about D-Rod. How in the world did Kevin Holland allow Daniel Rodriguez, old, fat, sloppy, and slow Daniel Rodriguez, to sneak into the welterweight rankings? Arguably the best division in the entire sport right now in welterweight in the UFC. And Daniel Rodriguez is a ranked fighter in 2025. That actually blows my mind. Listen, first off, I think he loses to every top 15 fighter right now in the UFC. Like Kevin Holland's no longer in the rankings, but I think every single, even Gilbert Burns and Colby Covington, who are clearly washed, I think they would beat D-Rod. He loses to every single top 15 fighter. This is the same guy that got submitted by Neil Magny, that got beat by Kelvin Gastelum, which if you're getting submitted by Neil Magny and beat by Kelvin Gastelum in the last year, you're not ranked material in the UFC welterweight division. Kevin Holland should have never been ranked. Let's keep it real. But, he got a couple mid-wins, as he always does, snuck into the rankings, and he got knocked right out. But Daniel Rodriguez, man, he's so extremely mid. He's just so sloppy. Go back and watch that fight versus Kevin Holland, and against, who was it that he fought? I think he fought Ponzinibbio before he got the finish. Dude, he looked so crappy in that fight. And listen, like I said, it's not a personal attack. D-Rod would beat the brakes off of me, but bro, we're talking about the best fighters in the world, and the fact that this guy's in the top 15 is not a great look for welterweight. And yeah, I think no matter who he gets matched up against, if it's a ranked fight, I think D-Rod loses to every single ranked fighter in the welterweight division. Let's get on to Michael Chandler, low IQ Mike, who recently went off on Tom Aspinall about saying that Tom Aspinall also waited for John Jones because Tom Aspinall roasted his fight IQ. He's salty about it. Michael Chandler's delusional about his state in the UFC. He genuinely thinks that somehow, some way, he'll find his way back to a title. But let's keep it a buck about Michael Chandler. This guy might have the lowest fight IQ in the history of the UFC. Maybe I'm exaggerating a little, but CM Punk might have higher fight IQ than Michael Chandler. Low IQ Mike finds a way to lose every single fight, even when he has guys out on their feet, even when he almost has guys knocked out. He finds a way to lose the fight every time. He doesn't have a win since 2022, and that win was against the ghost of Tony Ferguson. Tony Ferguson's fighting Salt Poppy in Misfits Boxing. That's Michael Chandler's last win. 3-fight losing streak, and he made Patty look like prime Wonderboy in that fight. You know how people always roast Patty striking and say he leaves his chin on a silver platter, puts it straight up in the air, anybody can catch Patty? That same Patty, Michael Chandler made him look like prime Wonderboy Thompson. Patty was out there floating like a butterfly, stinging like a bee, making Michael Chandler look like he's never struck a day in his life. And yeah, man, low IQ Mike, he's 39 years old now. No wins in the last 3.5 years, I believe. It might be time for Michael Chandler to have 1 or 2 more fun fights and then just pack it up. Listen, buddy, we're not seeing you at the top. We're seeing you outside the rankings after your next fight. That's what we're seeing. So yeah, low IQ Mike, I do not think he should be in the rankings. I don't ever think he was an elite UFC fighter. He struck gold whenever he knocked Dan Hooker out. I do not think he would knock him out in a rematch. That's his only good one in the UFC. So yeah, low IQ Mike makes the lightweight division look bad, and he should not be in the top 15. Josh Emmett, just like Marvin Vettori, outside of a big overhand and power, what is Josh Emmett good at? Nothing. Can you name me his last good win? And don't say Bryce Mitchell. Who is Josh Emmett's last good win? You can't tell me because he hasn't had any in years. This guy's 40 years old. And he just got pieced up by Lerone Murphy. He has a big overhand and nothing else. That's not an exaggeration. Josh Emmett literally has a big overhand. and he will spam that for the entire 5 rounds until he catches you or he just gets dominated. This guy spent 5 rounds against Ilia Topuria spamming overhands, and Ilia Topuria was just floating around looking like prime Muhammad Ali out there destroying this guy because he doesn't adjust. He's just like Marvin Vettori, except he has power. He spams overhands, and he doesn't have wrestling. He doesn't have grappling. He doesn't have BJJ. He doesn't really throw many kicks, just big overhands. That's all Josh Emmett has. How in the world did this guy ever get to an interim title fight? How in the world was this guy ever ranked top 5? Oh, that's right. He got a robbery win over, who was it? Calvin Kattar, I believe. But yeah, or it might have been Dan Ige. Either way, Josh Emmett is one of, if not, no, he's the worst ranked featherweight right now, I believe. Josh Emmett, he just lacks in skills, man. This guy's not good at anything. He's just so mid. And the fact that he got as far as he did in featherweight with just a big, meaty overhand really goes to show you the level of the featherweight division. I do think it's in a better state now, and you see that because Josh Emmett is slowly phasing out of the rankings. I think he's ranked number 10 or 11 now. He's slowly falling. We have guys like Ron Murphy, John Silva, Diego Lopez, Mavzar, even Aljamain Sterling. So we have a lot of better fighters that are being replacing the Josh Emmets of the world. But yeah, no way Josh Emmett should be a ranked fighter. This guy was never good to begin with. He was never a true mixed martial artist. He was just a guy with a big country overhand right. Let's get on to Patricio Pitbull. That's right, the guy who just beat Dan Ige, another mediocre Bellator fighter. That's what we're dealing with when we're talking about Patricio Pitbull. This guy's just not good, man. I don't even know if he was ever good, even in his prime in Bellator. I know he finished Chandler, but we just got done talking about Chandler being one of the worst ranked fighters in the history of the UFC. Patricio Pitbull, he came to the UFC when he was 37 years old. But even if he came when he was like 28, this guy, like whenever you're surrounded by mediocre fighters in Bellator, that's how you fight to the level of your competition. This guy's never had to fight a hard fight in his entire career. He's been fighting B-level tomato cans in Bellator, and he comes to the UFC and he gets dog walked by Yair Rodriguez, has an awful performance. And even in the Dan Ige fight, this guy's supposed to be this amazing grappler. What was he able to do in the grappling against Dan Ige? Nothing. Dan Ige shucked him off like he was Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Like it was embarrassing. He has mid grappling, he has mid striking, and he's just not impressive anywhere. Again, to reiterate, this is not a personal attack on the fighters. Pitbull, I'm sure he's a great guy that saves puppies in his free time, but let's be real, man. This guy at 37 years old and being a washed Bellator reject should not be ranked in the UFC in 2025. Dan Ige, you should be an absolute shame of yourself for giving this guy a ranking spot. So yes, I think that Patricio Pitbull is one of the worst ranked fighters in the UFC. Honestly, I would probably favor Josh Emmett to beat Patricio Pitbull, as crazy as that sounds, because he also fights at featherweight. So battle of the mediocre at 145, Patricio Pitbull versus Josh Emmett. Book it next. Let's get on to Marlon Cheeto Vera, one of my favorite fighters to roast. Here's an interesting stat about Marlon Vera. This guy loves beating up old men. Every single fighter he's beaten in the last, I put 10 years. It's not 10 years. I meant to put 5. Every single fighter he's beaten in the last 5 years has been 35 plus. So he beat Sean O'Malley in 2020, right? The perennial nerve kick, but we're not counting that. That was 5 years ago. Every win he's had after that has been above guys that were over 35 years old. Davey Grant, which I believe was a robbery. Who else he beat? Dominic Cruz, Dominic Cruz, Frankie Edgar. All these guys that he's beating are literal grandpas, way past their prime. Whenever he knocked out Frankie, he was way past his prime. Whenever he knocked out Cruz, he was way past his prime. Anytime this guy faces someone in their prime, he gets pieced up and destroyed, and they make it look easy. His only chance in a fight is to throw like a big, like crazy up kick at the end of the fight, or a big knee down the middle, just something crazy in the 3rd, 4th, or 5th round where he catches you. Marlon Vera never truly like outskills you. He always catches guys whenever he wins. When have you ever seen a Marlon Vera like 30-27 masterclass? You don't see it. This guy gets whooped every single fight, and he just doesn't adjust, man. He's one of the most frustrating fighters to watch. This guy's been in the UFC over 10 years, and yet he's still a slow starter. He himself even has acknowledged that he's a slow starter. Okay, you have an amazing chin. Brother, you're 32, almost 33 years old. You've been getting your ass kicked the last 5 years. It's time to actually go into the octagon and throw down. Despite being top 10, I think Marlon Vera is one of the worst skill for skill top 15 fighters in the entire UFC. Listen, man, I'm not going to pretend like this guy has legit skills. He just doesn't. When's his last submission win? When's his last win over somebody who's not a retired legend? You can't name it because they don't exist, man. This guy gets pieced up by everybody he fights because he's just not good. Let's keep it real. Johnny Walker might just have the worst stand-up defense in the history of the light heavyweight division. It's an ongoing meme at this point that if you're watching a Johnny Walker fight, there's like a 95% chance he's going to get chinned. And I think he gets chinned by 95% of the light heavyweights. Honestly, at this point, I might favor Alonzo Minifield, one of the worst ranked fighters himself, to beat Johnny Walker. Johnny Walker has low fight IQ. This guy's fight IQ is so low that he went train at SBG Ireland at Conor McGregor's camp with John Kavanagh. John Kavanagh trains lighter fighters. Why on earth this guy go to Ireland in order to train over there? Brother, go to Faraz Sahabi, go to Killcliff, go to Extreme Couture, go anywhere. This guy travels to Ireland to go train with John Kavanagh. He must have saw something in Conor McGregor, but either way, this guy's stand-up defense has gotten worse and worse over the years. You know how bad you have to be to get KO'd by Corey Anderson back in your prime? Because I don't think Johnny Walker's in his prime. This guy, every time he fights a decent fighter, Jamal Hill KO'd him, Magomed Ankalaev KO'd him, Corey Anderson KO'd him, Volkan Oezdemir KO'd him. It's not even cool to KO Johnny Walker anymore. I wouldn't be surprised if a gust of wind knocks Johnny Walker to one knee at this point. Like Conor McGregor said, a gust of wind and he does the chicken dance, yeah? But you get it, man. This guy has no striking defense. Sure, he has okay grappling. He submitted Jan Kutalaba, but genuinely, it's a running meme at this point that Johnny Walker is going to get knocked out in every single fight. And I think that's just something that has to be said about that, man. He should and is not a ranked fighter in the UFC. And I think Zhang Mingyang is going to send this guy's head into the moon. This Zhang Mingyang versus Johnny Walker is sanctioned, you know what. So yeah, I think Johnny Walker, maybe him and Alonzo Minifield are the two worst ranked light heavyweights currently. Let's get on to Benoit Saint Denis. Now, Lucas Tracy, in his video he made today, has tried to justify saying that people are overplaying how good Mauricio Rufy is by saying that he's going to beat Benoit Saint Denis by whatever way he wants. And he tried to play devil's advocate. But listen, Lucas, let's call it what it is, man. This guy has the worst striking defense in the history of the light heavyweight division. This guy strikes like he's underwater. He has no head movement. He's as slow as Nico Price. And he made Moicano look like Khamzat Chimaev out there. People talk about Benoit's grappling. Bro, he literally made Moicano look like the best grappler in the history of lightweight. And look what Islam did to Moicano. Moicano destroyed this guy on the ground, made it look easy. And even if Rufy's grappling is horrible, I still think, even if you look at Benoit Saint Denis' last fight against Kyle Prepolek, right? A can off of the Canada regional scene, whoever you want to call him. He beat Kyle Prepolek on short notice because Joe Alvarez pulled out, which he got saved. Joe Alvarez would have murked this guy. But even in that fight against Kyle Prepolek, he looked horrible on the feet. Even if Mauricio Rufy comes in with like Yair Rodriguez level of grappling, he is going to smoke Benoit Saint Denis. Benoit Saint Denis has the worst striking defense I've ever seen versus one of the sharpest shooters in the lightweight division. And I just don't see a way he beats Rufy, man. I would be shocked if Benoit Saint Denis pulled it off against Rufy. Like I would genuinely be like, all the fight nerds are frauds at that point. If he out grapples and outworks him, I think Rufy's going to KO this guy out cold. So yeah, I think he has no rank wins. Also, talking about Benoit Saint Denis, he has not beaten any ranked top 15 lightweight, and he's still somehow a ranked fighter. So yes, I think Benoit Saint Denis is the worst current ranked lightweight and arguably the strongest division in the entire UFC. Let's get on to Gilbert Burns. Now, it's unfortunate that he's on this list because at one point, Gilbert Burns might have been, or not might have been, he was top 5 for a while. He fought for a title. Whenever he was at the top of his game, he was a scary guy to fight, knockout power in his hands. And even just a year ago, or a year and a half ago, he gave Jack Della Maddalena a damn good fight before getting KO'd by a knee. But let's just call it what it is, man. Gilbert Burns is older and slower than he ever has been. Even his grappling is looking like it's getting worse. His chin is deteriorating. Every contest he gets in, he hits one knee. You know who that's from? Let me know in the comments. And I think he loses to every single ranked fighter outside of D-Rod. I think he can beat D-Rod, but outside of that, even D-Rod has a chance to chin him because this is a depleted Gilbert Burns with no chin. So yes, I think Gilbert Burns loses to every single ranked welterweight at this point in his career outside of D-Rod, and I don't think he should be a ranked fighter. On a 4-fight losing streak, Gilbert Burns should not be ranked in the UFC in 2025. And I think this last fighter, there's 3 welterweights on this list. Here's the last one. Colby Covington. He has not had a win since 2022 against Jorge Masvidal, which was funny enough, was also Gilbert Burns' last win. The last time Colby Covington won a fight was against Jorge Masvidal at UFC. I forgot which card it was on, but it was in March of 2022. So we're going on 3.5 years since this guy's had a win. And even if his Buckley fight at the end of last year, he looked horrible. He looked slow. He looked like his wrestling got worse. He looked like his cardio got worse. I understand he took that fight on short notice, but come on, guys. He said he doesn't need to train. This is supposed to be the cardio king, but it turns out he's just a 37-year-old version. I'm joking. I said this is not a personal attack. But Colby Covington's last win over a fighter under the age of 35 was against RDA in 2018. We're talking 8 years ago is the last time this guy's beat anybody who wasn't a senior citizen. Colby Covington has made an entire career beating up on old men and getting gifted title shots. And listen, I don't think he should be ranked anymore. I think his time is up. I don't even know if he'll fight in the UFC again, but this guy has been riding the rankings for a long, long time without having any good wins. So I think it's about time this guy drops out of the top 15 and we start having guys who are actually worthy of a ranking spot. And ultimately, guys, that is my opinion on what I consider to be the worst ranked fighters in the UFC. Like I said, the UFC is supposed to be indicative of the best fighters in the world from top to bottom, and just seeing these guys ranked in the UFC in 2025 really has you scratching your head, really has you asking the media members or the outlets that rank these guys, like, what are you guys thinking or doing? Also, one last thing, let me throw some shade at the rankings one last time before I get off this video. How on earth is Umar Nurmagomedov still ranked above Petr Yan, despite him coming off a loss to Merab and Petr Yan being on a 3-fight win streak? How does that make any sense? The only thing I can think of is if they're basing the ranking off of how close their fights were, where Petr Yan got dominated by Merab, whereas Umar actually put up a competitive fight. But otherwise, man, Umar's coming off a loss. Petr Yan should be ranked number 1. Umar should be ranked number 2, and Sean O'Malley should be ranked number 3. The rankings make absolutely no sense, and even Dana White cannot stand the rankings. But yeah, guys, this is ultimately my take on who are the worst ranked fighters in the UFC. Let me know in the comments if I missed anybody. If you guys enjoyed the video, do me a favor and leave a like. Always appreciate it, guys. I'm out. Peace.